Welcome to Pieces of China, China Institute's online series that tells the story of China one object at a time. I'm Dinda Elliott, and I am so delighted today to have with me Mei Zhang, who is one of the top experts on, certainly on travel. She's the founder of the experiential travel company WildChina, and an expert on so much about her country, especially her own province of Yunnan. Today, Mei is going to talk about the Magnolia blossom and what it tells us about Yunnan of yesterday and today. So, Mei, let's start with jumping into the past for a minute. The magnolia is such a unique object and one that's so deeply connected to your own roots and your hometown in Yunnan. I wonder if you can share with us what are some of your early memories of this flower, and then tell us why you chose it.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Dinda. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and it's always a pleasure to talk about Yunnan anytime for me, right? So let me first show what magnolia we're talking about. It's
Very
a
beautiful.
tiny little flower, as you can see. The flower itself is smaller than my finger, but
And where did you get that flower, Mei? Or
I,
rather, I should say, where did you steal that flower?
I did not steal it.
Okay.
I warned my neighbor over shell. I drove up at 7 o'clock. I actually told his wife, but he didn't know that. So at 7 a.m., I drove up there and he's like, who's this? So I plundered their tree, these little flowers. But my earliest memory of this flower, memory is such a funny thing. Sometimes you just remember a smell, a taste, an image that evokes something deep down in your memory, right? So this flower, one day I walked past their tree. This is in Berkeley, California. And I smelled it. It completely took me all the way back to Kunming, back to Dali in Yunnan. The earliest memory of these flowers, why are they together? They don't grow together. They always grow one at a time, like the one I showed you in between branches. But in Yunnan, they are always tied up and sold as a pair. And these old ladies, usually in Dali, they would be Bai ladies who bring their vegetable or whatever they want to sell in the market. At the same time, they would carry a little basket. And in the basket, there would be layers of these white magnolias layered on top of each other, separated with a wet piece of handkerchief or something. And when I was little, 5, 6 years old, my mother would buy like 5 cents a flower, 10 cents a pair. And you have this little thing, you hang it on a button, and it goes around with you for the whole day. The fragrance just cheers up your day. So that's been buried very, very deep in my memory.
Wow. And so tell us a little bit about the Bai. You were talking about, usually it was Bai women who were selling this, and the Bai wear these fantastically beautiful embroidered costumes, and it's a very exotic environment that you grew up in.
Well, when you grow up in such environment, it does not seem exotic at all. It's just, our everyday life. I'm not Bai. I always used to joke with my friends when they ask me, like, are you Tibetan or are you Bai? I would go like, no, I circled around the air and looked for a place to land and landed in the Chinese family. But in Yunnan, we have 25 what they labeled as minority ethnic groups, plus the majority Han. And in China in total, there are 55 plus the majority of Han. So Yunnan practically has half of the ethnic groups.
And it's so wonderful you chose this magnolia blossom, because Yunnan is so known for its biodiversity, right? And it's really about kind of flora and fauna. Tell us a little bit about that.
If anybody who's been to Yunnan in the early 80s would know, a lot of the foreign students in Kunming would go to Dali to smoke pot, marijuana, right? So Yunnan is really, it is China's kingdom of flora and fauna. And there are because of the weather patterns, you can find from tropical south, Xishuangbanna area, anything tropical. It actually has the largest tropical botanical garden of China in Xishuangbanna. And then you move along the ancient Tian Horse Caravan Road northward towards Tibet. And in fact, in the very northwestern part of Yunnan, there is the high glaciers rising up to 20,000 feet. And because of these dramatic landscape change, the plant species and animal species and human cultural diversity is just abundant in the area. So Yunnan nowadays is China's headquarters for cut flowers, and it is the most important cash crop area. If you talk about any tea drinker would be drinking tea. Pu'er, the most famous pu'er, would be from Yunnan. Or coffee drinker, Starbucks now has a plantation in Yunnan growing their coffee. And it also produces the medicinal plants. So everything grows there. We have fresh vegetable. Also, let's not forget, before this era, Yunnan's primary economic driver was tobacco, right? But that mix is changing now. It's really a place where you'll find all your rhododendrons, magnolias, and camellias. That's why for me here in Berkeley, it reminds me completely of Yunnan.
So, and I will say from experience that the countryside of Yunnan is just extraordinarily beautiful. But so tell us a little bit, May, you said that when you were little, you could get, that magnolia blossom. By the way, how do you say it in Chinese?
Very good question. Because it has different names.
Okay.
In Shanghai area, I think they call this 白玉兰, which means white magnolia. Mm-hmm. But in Yunnan, we call it 缅桂花.
缅桂花, okay.
Which I think the mian has a sound of Myanmar in it, but I haven't looked at the origin of it. But my dad used to tell me it also rhymes with no prosperity. Therefore, I'm forbidden from planting one of these trees in my yard because that means I will not have money.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, but you did describe when you were little, you could buy those for 5分钱, right? For 5 cents or maybe 10 cents or something like that. So what about today? Or how did you see that change over the years?
It's one of those things that's lodged in sort of memory and nostalgia because there's so little money in it. And I did not think the Bai ladies were really selling it for a huge profit anyway. I think everyone who's in love with this flower is in love with the lifestyle of Yunnan. It's this slow-paced, very close to nature. You pick your vegetable every day, you pick your flower every day. Nowadays, people are just busy. People are so busy that I don't think the Bai ladies are picking these flowers at all. I mean, the trees are still there. They're not cultivated in the farm. But it's very hard to find them in the market. Even if you're willing to pay, you won't be able to find them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did you say as you were growing up, the price went up and up and up as kind of modernization unfolded and the economy developed, and then they sort of disappeared?
Yeah, pretty much. Nowadays, you probably can find them like once in a while. If you really, really look in the little corners of the alleyways, you might be able to find them.
How would you describe Yunnan today compared to what it was like when you were little? What's changed?
I still love it. I still love it. Home is always home, and obviously, just like the rest of China, Yunnan has become a lot wealthier. People there have a lot more money at their disposal. But things that are consistent is people still enjoy life a lot more than the fast pace of Beijing and Shanghai. And in Yunnan, particularly in Dali, it's been interesting. Dali sometimes is dubbed as California because it's somehow this sort of, frontier area that used to attract missionaries or, these oddballs in life who would go to places that's far from Tiangao Huangdi Yuan, far from the emperor. And nowadays, it seems to attract the sort of people who are pursuing a lifestyle. There's a new wave of what we call 新大理人, new Dali people. They are the 20, 30-year-old young married families with a baby, and they don't want the baby to grow up not seeing their parents at all. So they all flock to Dali and build houses and live there.
So they come from other parts of China. They come from, say, Shanghai,
Guangzhou, Shanghai, Beijing, and settle there. But the roots of Dali or of Yunnan culture are so deep that I don't think people are very heavily or negatively impacted by these new migrants. So you find this peaceful coexistence. My Dali Bai lady still continues to sell my flowers in the market. Less magnolia, but more lavender. The new Dali people would come and they drink their tea, and sometimes they make their cup of espresso or latte. So it's a very pleasant coexistence. I find I'm in love with the fusion of the culture there.
And how do people in Dali view the sort of flashy, glitzy, fast-paced life of, say, Shanghai? What do they think about that life?
That's interesting. I think it's changing. Before, when I left, I moved away, but I continue to go back every year. But when I left in the mid-90s, there was this deep-rooted sense of insecurity about our culture in the mountains, because it is the backward, 非常土, very earthy. Well, earthy is now a positive word, but it's considered the backwater.
Country bumpkins, yeah.
Yeah, country. I used to call it country pumpkins because it's like this round, so forth image it conjures up for me. But I know, yes, that kind of insecurity over the years has been replaced. Now it's this pride that we're from Yunnan, because in the past, everything we looked to Shanghai for the newest manufactured shirt, pen, candy, anything that's manufactured would be better. Now the people from Shanghai come to Yunnan and they go like, wow, this way of finding these flowers, this way of making tea, everything that is time tested or anything that's done with time and care and love is now treasured in China. So people in Yunnan all of a sudden realize, okay, the slow way we live is not that bad. Actually, people in Shanghai want to have our life. Maybe we can benefit from sharing with them a slice of our life. That's why tourism in Yunnan is booming.
Wow. Wow. So as you look over, the changes in China over the last 40 years, the incredible modernization and, lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty and all this kind of, infrastructure and high-speed trains and all this stuff, which has really been a marvelous thing to see. Is there anything that's been lost in the process? And do you feel that at all when you think about your childhood memories? And is there anything that people, as you're suggesting, maybe can learn from a place like Dali?
Well, and in fact, I don't want to make it sound so rosy. There are definitely pains of development. And Dali, the same. Dali wants to, if you look at this skyline of the major city there, Xiaguan, it looks like any other major city in China. This conformity of urban development is destroying the character of local places, and Yunnan and Dali are no exception. I think that the good thing is people are realizing that now. Just last year, I actually went back to Yunnan. I was invited by the government to give a speech, and I ended my talk with the song by Joni Mitchell. We paved the parking lot, and what was that?
We paved paradise and put up a parking lot.
Yeah, we paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Yeah. And afterwards, I think the officials were a little bit like, how could you say that in a big meeting? But a lot of individuals came up to me and said, that's exactly how we felt. Certain parts of Yunnan, certain paths we've taken has brought us here. And thank you for pointing that out. So it is, you know, people are trying. We'll see. We'll see if more people embrace the conservation. I think Yunnan has hope. Yeah.
That's one of the great things, I think, is, I mean, firstly, that they did invite you back to speak. That's a wonderful thing. And you're kind of in a position now with the kind of credibility of your life experience that you can speak from experience, and they actually will be really interested in what you have to say, especially since you're one of them. It's your hometown, right? You can really
It is my hometown.
talk about it with really deep understanding. And, you know, obviously the struggle between modernization and tradition is true everywhere in the world. And I find one of the encouraging things to me in China is that China does everything fast. So it took us in the West maybe 100 years to figure out that, wow, we're losing a lot of stuff as we modernize. So China's modernized a lot faster, but there's also the rise much more quickly of an appreciation for what's been lost.
I think so. I think so. And the key is if we realize this danger with equal speed, then there is hope, right? And if we approach our hometown, the conservation, the development with the same kind of passion and compassion, I think we can maybe find a more balanced road forward.
Well, I can't wait to make my way back to Yunnan and Dali. I'm sure everybody else feels the same way. So will you show us one more time that beautiful blossom? And then let's see that.
I wish I could mail this to you.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And we've got to bring it to a close now. I'm afraid time's up, but we really, really look forward to bringing Mei back to China Institute's platform. Go ahead, Mei. You had something you wanted to say.
One thing, summertime, best time for more foraged wild mushroom dishes in Yunnan. So go next summer.
And by the way, Mei has written a wonderful, wonderful book. You have to tell us the name of your book.
Travels through Dali with a leg of ham.
Right. So Mei knows a lot about the food of Yunnan as well. And we're going to, I promise you, we are going to bring her back in the fall. So you will see her again. Thank you all so much for joining us today. You can see all of our Pieces of China episodes on YouTube. So please check them out. And please join us as members, because your membership will bring you discounts to China Institute events, etc. But much more importantly, your membership will help us bring brilliant speakers like Mei to our programs. So again, I also want to say next Thursday, we're going to have Kevin Kwan, who is going to talk about the haute couture dress that made the crazy rich Chinese go even crazier. So we'll have Kevin Kwan talking about that, which will be very fun. So please join. And Mei, thank you again for helping us tell the story of China.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.